Greetings, Goddess Body, Mind, Spirit community. This is your Goddess Guru, Tyra Omilade, here to share a word of inspiration with you on your path to self realization and self mastery. Today is November the 7th, 2018. I still just get blown away how this construct of time really just keeps rolling on by. This is why we may as well know the truth of who and what we are. This is why we may as well go on ahead and decide that we are going to know the truth, the glorious truth and wonder of who we are, master, step into self-realization and self-mastery. Because, why not? Time is going to do it with or without us. Why waste this opportunity? Not only is it November the 7th, it is also the new moon in Sagittarius, which to me is a big deal. But let me make sure that I use my manners and say happy Sagittarius season to all of the Sagittarius sun, moon, and ascendant people out there. Hey, 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 hey. I know the Sagittarius is a partying because Sag knows how to do it big. So this is one of those seasons to me that we all can be happy. We all can rejoice. We all can have a good time because Sagittarius is about expansion. It's about culture. It's about becoming more. It's about dreaming big. And so it doesn't matter if you are, a Sagittarius, sun, moon, or ascendant. No matter where Sagittarius is in your chart, you're winning. Okay. I will say that for me, Jupiter in Scorpio, because now Jupiter is in Sag. That's another reason this thing is on and popping in Sag. The sun is in Sagittarius and Jupiter is in Sagittarius. Mercury will be back here soon. Oh, Sag, come on, bestow your blessings on us, Sagittarius. Because Scorpio, this season has been rough. I'm like, wow. Scorpio is nothing to play with. And I'm a Scorpio rising, and I'm like, man, this energy of Scorpio, talk about death and transformation. It has been amazing. There was a tornado that came through November, maybe 4th or 5th. Killed a woman I know, 42 years old, left two teenagers and a husband. A lady that I know, now this was a little more recently, but I see it as at the tail end of the Scorpionic season. Again, we still have Venus and wait a minute. Yeah, Venus and Mercury in Scorpio. So the energy of Scorpio still has energy in it. And her son was killed in a car crash. And she probably could have, you never want your child to leave, but it's one thing when your child gets in a car crash, but it's another thing when the person who's driving the car was trying to kill your child and the person who's driving the car didn't die and your child did. Another lady I know, her mother passed. I would not know who this is if it wasn't for me being on Instagram, because I've never been into pop culture for the most part. But Kim Porter, I know she has a child by I'll Be Sure and maybe 3 by P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs. Just all of a sudden, this woman was maybe, I'm pretty sure she was early 40s. She was 40 something. She was young. I was like, dang, Scorpio has been rough. I know somebody who just lost their job. She has a Scorpio moon. I said, this Scorpio energy is not playing. Everybody, whatever you need to die to, And she said she really hated her job. So I think that played a role in it. She hated her job. She maybe didn't need to be at this job. It wasn't the best for her, though. It sucks at the timing, which is now during Sag season. And, it's just a whole lot of factors. But I'm like, wow, Scorpio has me respecting it. I'm like, oh, respect the Scorpionic energy. I feel like Jupiter in Scorpio for me has been very beneficial because whenever Jupiter is in your sign, it's time for an awakening. Even if you're in a tough sign such as um, Scorpio, and then of course next year it goes into Capricorn. That's not easy energy. That's not easy energy. But it speaks to the cycles. What if we never got into these cycles of um, needing to let go of things, needing to release? There's always that season of letting go of and releasing. So yeah, that's a part of life. That's something that I think that we do a horrible job of in US culture, but probably modern culture in general. There's always going to be a release, a letting go of a goodbye. We got to get used to it. This is why we work the energy of Oya. Man, I thought this reading was good, but now I'm like questioning myself. Energy governing the new moon for y'all from the Metu Natter. Because this is the energy, you can say Capricorn. I relate this to Oya, and I relate Oya to Scorpio. And it talks about death. It talks about cycles. This is Sekar. It talks about cycles. And so, we got to honor the cycles. You got to know which cycle are you working in right now. That's very, very important. And I just feel like Scorpio gave us a pause to really be in an energy of letting go of things. Though for some, it's been, deeply, deeply transformative in a traumatic way. That it has made me, like I said, have a lot of respect for Scorpio. But the good news is, again, it's a cycle. So where there's an ending, there is a beginning. And so that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you all about today with this new moon in Sagittarius. This is a good time to set goals for next year. I think that we should be setting our goals right now at this new moon. Because if you think about the symbol for Sag, it's an arrow, and the arrow is pointing towards the future. And so this is the time for us to be looking towards the future. And it is such a good time because Jupiter is in Sagittarius. And so if we can go on ahead and start setting 2019 goals now, that would be so good. Get them on your mind. And you still have a few days to set these intentions. If you haven't thought about them, think about something, write them down. And then, during, once we get to the solstice, you can take that time maybe and create a vision board or a vision book or do more visualization. You can take that time to really begin to seed these goals into your spirit. And I like to say gestate them during the winter time. And then in the spring, you can start in January, but the spring is actually a really good time too to give birth to new things. I sort of look at the solstice period to the equinox as sort of like a time for me to sort of like play around and see, did I get the right goals? So I need to tweak my goals a little bit. And so that's what I wanted to tell about this new moon in Sagittarius. You do want to set intentions for this lunar cycle from this new moon until the next new moon. So you're setting two, and I talked about this in another video, but I just want to emphasize it because I think it's going to be a game changer for us, y'all. If you watch this video a little bit down the road, just go on ahead and set your intentions as much as you can while we're in Sag. You're winning. If you know your chart, then wherever Sagittarius is in your chart, work that area of your chart. So for instance, if it's in your first house, you're making goals that are about you. Really, any area of your life is in your first house. If it's the seventh house, it might be more about relationships with other people, business contracts, business contacts, business colleagues, different things like that, you know? So I'm just going to be 100 with y'all. Those videos that Lotta made for the upcoming year, I want to say now they're probably about $6.99 per video. Astrolotta.com. I mean, those are really good videos that sort of, if you know your chart and she shows you how to, and you really do need to know your time of birth for it to be most applicable. And then if you have to pick anyone, don't pick the sun sign, pick the ascendant. Watch the video for your ascendant. That video is the most accurate for what you're going to actually see. The sun is supplementary, so is the moon, even though for women, the moon might be really accurate. But until I can do that kind of astrology, I'm telling y'all, there's also Jupiter in Sagittarius webinar that I don't know if y'all remember April. She was Pisces moon goddess at the time. Now she's a cosmic home girl. She and Lotta did a webinar, Jupiter in Sagittarius. And again, it really is best if you know your time of birth. If you don't know your time of birth, then this is what you do. You find out what time did the sun rise, and it'll set your sun, use that time instead. It'll set your sun sign as your ascendant sign, and then you can just use that. It's not all lost. It's not all lost. Or just buy the video. If you know your sun is in, say, Aquarius, buy the video for Aquarius. If you know your moon is in Leo, then just buy the moon video for Leo. Because you can look at your chart without your time of birth and know what your moon sign is, okay? Y'all got to start knowing this moon sign. This moon sign is everything, all right? Okay. So, yeah, this is time for us to really be setting those goals and intentions for Sagittarius. So let's do that, y'all. Let's do that. Make it special. You remember I talk about ritual is important. Having our daily rituals, weekly rituals, lunar rituals, which will be this new moon. We have the solstice coming up. So doing something for that. It's the shortest day of the year. So, you know, maybe this is a time where, because it's during Capricorn, and Capricorn pinches things. It's all about contraction. Because Sagittarius is about expansion. What comes after expansion? Contraction. And so taking that time to purify your body, purify your thoughts, you know, maybe get off social media so much, or stop watching TV, or stop listening to the, what do people listen to? Pandora, so much. And let's see here, what else? Really taking stock and taking accountability, you know, using that time to really own up to the hard things in life. I do find the solstice, even though I just don't like cold weather, I do find the solstice to be a deeply nurturing time because it's so much darkness. And so allowing yourself maybe to take some extra baths, or go sit in a sauna, or a hot tub or something like that, just to feel nestled or whatever does that for you, to not include food. Although making maybe some savory soups or something like that is good, but really I always think of it as the womb of darkness, you know, going back into that dark place of gestation and allowing our spirits to really calm down. Okay. If y'all hear some stuff, that's my son taking a shower, and you can just hear it through this wall. Let's see here. So energy governing the goddess body mind spirit community for this new moon. Now, to me, this is positive. We have Sekar, which is the first card, and then we have Haru, which is the second card. Both of them speaking in the positive. Hi, how you doing? Is that Vania? And Sekar. So this goes back. I send you, I send you your peace and blessings. Yes. I send you many, many blessings of abundance, love, prosperity, peace, all things good, divine. This is the time. It goes back to really what I was saying. Just did this reading right before I logged on, so I already knew what I was going to talk about. This confirms it. This talks about coming up with a plan. You want to intuit a plan, and then see, this is Capricorn. Capricorn says you're going to stick with this plan. You are going to stick with this plan, and you will not deviate. If you deviate, there will be consequences and repercussions. So I do encourage you to write out the plan. You want to intuit it. Really make sure this is a plan that's reflective of your destiny, of your truest desires, not mama and them and husband and them, your spirit. Okay, you know what reigns true for you. So you want to intuit the plan, you want to stick with the plan, and this is a time to be spiritual, because this is what Sekar says. Sekar says, die to the world and walk the spiritual path, however that looks for you. We all know where we're slacking spiritually. We all know this. No one has to tell us our faults and what we're doing wrong. Now, sometimes we might need some extra information to really understand the why, but yeah, we know when we're slacking. So, whatever you need to do, if it might not be that you're slacking, it might just be there's something that you've been saying you wanted to do spiritually and you just haven't started doing. You want to make that commitment now, and you want to stick with it. This card actually, or this energy, not this card, this energy of Sekar is actually asking us to really make a commitment. Now, some of y'all might commit to be in a deeper relationship. Mm-hmm. Some of y'all might find out you're pregnant. And that's a commitment. Having a baby, that's a commitment. But definitely it's a deeper commitment in in your destiny. Commit to living higher, what do we call it? Iwapele. That's all we want. Iwapele. People talk about initiating the E5. My thing is, it's easy. Good character. That's what you need to be going for. Good. Another priest said gentle character. That's something I pray for on a regular basis. Peace and blessings. Okay. So let's see here. Oh, chanting is also something that's really good whenever that's something. If you need something, you're like, well, what do? I don't know what to do. Then you can chant. I like using like the chants from yoga and Kundalini yoga and all that kind of good stuff. The mantra. If you have the Metunetter, you might even be able to order recordings. But there's chants in those. Singing the Oriki if you're into E5, chanting, positive words over and over again. Another thing I'll give you, another good spiritual practice that is so perfect for Sagittarius. Gratitude, anything to do with gratitude. I was going to say bowels of gratitude. You can look that up. Bowels of gratitude, having a gratitude journal. You know how people commit to doing this gratitude thing for a year. I'm like, oh, they must be having something going on in Sag. So yeah, it's a time of gratitude. So every day, making sure, especially like if you get in a grumpy mood, think of something you're grateful for. Like for real, you're grateful for this. So yeah, we need some more spirituality. We need to a certain degree, cut ourselves off from the world right now and allow ourselves to commit to having more discipline. We need to commit to really lining ourselves up with our inner willpower, which has more to do with planting seed in our consciousness and only focusing on that which we want so that it grows in consciousness. And the more I think on it, then the power of the universe will move me in that direction. I find that when I think about what I don't want, it's way more than I think about what I do want. It's way more difficult for me to get to where I want to go. It just gets so slowed down. So Haru Go is definitely one who talks about um, the proper use of willpower. It's not all the time I'm going to dig my heels in and make this happen. Willpower will make things come to you a little more easily. And working with Sekert, you don't complain about hard work. You're like, yeah, I work hard. I'm proud to work hard. That's what I do. If you don't like working hard, Sekert is going to be like checking you right now. Okay. Whereas Haru is saying, look, you need to have some discipline. I just struggle sometimes. I used to feel like I was the most disciplined person. And so now I'm like really trying to get back in tune and in alignment with this discipline. But a lot of times it comes from having structure. That's another thing Sekar talks about. You need to have structure. So you have to think about what this looks like for you. Because I know a lot of people who are very, like their house is very clean. So it may not be necessarily structure around the house. Some people do a really good job of following their plan of the day. My husband is one of those type of people. It's like every day he does the exact same thing. So it may not be that. It may be that you need more structure in the way that you eat. Maybe you need to structure your day more so that you get more sleep because your body is letting you know you need more sleep. You might need more structure and boundaries in your relationships. I find a lot of people struggle with this. When Sekert speaks, if you find that you don't have good boundaries, it's time to get some good boundaries. So this structure, it depends on who you are as the individual. So you need to think about where do you need more structure or where do you need more boundaries. Um, you know, a lot of something else I was thinking about is boundaries around eating, boundaries around just what you're doing with your extra time. Because see, this card right here has to do with time. I was talking about cycles earlier. This card has to do with time. Are you wasting your time? Are you slated to be somebody who didn't do everything you were supposed to do? You wasted your time, and so your destiny did not get fully fulfilled. And you may not escape the wheel of reincarnation, and you'll be back to get it done. I am one of those people. I will say I'm one of those people who did not do everything. And so I'm back to finish some stuff. So I'm trying to get her done. And so with more structure, it's easier to have more discipline, the discipline. The other thing Haru speaks to is managing yourself. What kind of manager are you of your life? So these two cards actually go really nice and hand in hand, because when you come up with a plan, when you have a structure in place, then you need to find the discipline to follow the plan. And what will happen is you will actually get results in your life. That's what most people really want to see, but we've been convinced that we can't get it. So a lot of us, we sleep on our lives. We get nothing done. We live in mediocrity. And see, these two cards are like, you cannot live in mediocrity. So set some goals for expansion and, bling bling in your life. Moving beyond where you currently are in your life. Why stay there for the next year? How different is your life this year than it was from last year? So that's something to think about right now. Let's see here. Oh, the other thing about Haru is you want to avoid operating from your emotions. Now that's sort of hard because we actually are emotional beings, but we get to choose. That's another thing that Haru says. We get to choose our emotions. And so there's a lot of times when we're like, you know what, I really shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it And then we do all this emotional stuff. And instead, there are other times when we are like, you know what? I'm just going to walk away. I'm just going to walk away. Oh, I don't want to walk away, but I'm going to walk away because if I don't walk away, it's going to be ugly. You know how we do that? So that's really what Haru is asking us to do over the next lunar cycle, to not just operate blindly from our emotions, but instead we need to choose our emotions. A word that I'm going to hopefully begin to talk about more is mindfulness. Like this morning, I was mindful of the fact that, well, I wasn't initially. I was like, had this runaway mind going on, and I was just grumpy and complaining about whatever in my head. I don't even know what it was because it wasn't anything important. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. I don't like these thoughts. I don't like this feeling that these thoughts are giving. So I'm going to stop right there. I took some deep breaths. I let my mind get quiet. And then I said, okay, I'm ready to go about my day and have a positive day. That's an example of what I'm talking about. When you're dealing with people who can trigger you, you've got to come up with a plan of dealing with them so that they do not trigger your emotions. Okay? These cards speaking in the positive are saying that if we follow the wisdom, more than likely we will manage this just fine. So live by choice. Live by choice. As you make your goals for this upcoming year, you need to be making goals that are based on your choices. Sometimes I might choose to do something that I don't want to do because it's what's best. It's what is the right thing to do for that moment. I'm not doing it because of a should. I'm doing it because this is really what I should do. Well, not should. It's really the best thing to do. And so, we still need to make that choice. Don't allow yourself to think, well, I'm doing it because I have to. People are forcing me to do this. Live by choice. So even if I say, so for instance, I had taken off one of the days at my the nonprofit where I work, and they scheduled something for that day. And I was like, I took that day off because I didn't want to work. But it was like, well, we didn't realize that. We thought you said yes. And we scheduled this event. And actually, we were only scheduling an event at a time when we thought you could be there because you're a key player. So there's my emotion. I was hot. I was not happy. And I thought, I'll just do it because I can. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go on ahead and do it. I could have taken the road of, I got to do it. I hate doing this. But, and I could have gotten out of it, I could have said, well, you put me on there, but I didn't say I was going to be there, but I'm not. But I said, you know what? I'm going to make the choice. I'm going to show up. This thing is supposed to help me in my classes. So I will choose to be there because, I'm a part of a team and I'm not teaching anymore that day. So, I'm just going to go on ahead and do it. I made that choice. And in that moment, I lost the feeling of frustration and being mad in an instant because I chose it. So these are the kinds of things that we're talking about. Anybody have any questions? If I have any people on, just let me know how are things going for you since what? It's December. Okay, since mid-November. Well, yeah, late-ish November, the last part of November. If you watch this in replay, let me know. So any tips on dealing with depression? That's very interesting. I was just looking at a young lady talking about how she, what did she say she does? This woman sounds like she is chronically depressed, has been depressed the majority of her life, and has even gotten sometimes to a point of suicide. And what she did was she came up with a rating scale on how she was feeling to kind of let her know what to do. And I will go and find that video and post a link to it. No, 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 no. I will share the video on my discussion page. I don't know if y'all can see when I post on that discussion page. I don't see it pop up like I see other people's posts, because you know you can post now. Besides just a video, I could post a message of any kind. But if you go to the discussion tab on my channel, I've been posting there. I will post it there, but I will just go ahead and put it in the link of this video so you can watch it. I'm not sure, you know, what kind of depression you have. You know, is it recent or whatever? And you don't even have to give all those details since it's a public forum. But I will say, you know, that's interesting. This kind of energy is so sobering. It can make you depressed. And I have lived with depression for quite a long time. It's more getting to a point where I'm not so used to being depressed as I used to be, but I can fall into a depression easily. So let me just tell you a few things that have helped me. Number one, of course, if you are majorly depressed, you should get help. Once I post this video, I wish I could remember this young lady's name. I just love her energy. She's a minimalist, but she posts, you know, she vlogs about other things too, and she uses. You can look at her. Um, what did I tell y'all it's called? The system that she's come up with to gauge her depression, and it lets her know what she needs to do, you know. So like 1 to about 3 or 4, it didn't sound super serious, and it's probably for everybody a little bit different, because I thought, dang, 5 sounds serious. Where do you go from 5? Because it went anywhere from weight gain to maybe sleeping a little bit more to maybe not being able to get out of bed, to the point where people are coming up with a plan to kill themselves. So of course, once you gauge how serious your depression is, it is important to go get help. I believe in medication to help get you stable. I know medication is not going to fix it, but I am one who believes we should get medication. Okay. So for me, the other thing that I feel has been very helpful is, well, using natural remedies too. I'm not going to say I'm a professional at choosing natural remedies, but what I used to do when I lived with depression a little bit more is I typically would drink something like the teas that are about the nerves, anything with B vitamins, anything that soothes and calms me. I would take those kinds of vitamins and, you know, natural supplements and different things like that, herbs. And it did help, because for me, it's important to get stable enough to be able to even know what to do. I mean, to actually put the plan in place, because depression, it debilitates us. So another thing that I began to realize about depression is that, in my opinion, it's like an entity. So there's 2 entities that I have dealt with quite a bit. A friend of mine taught me in Islam, they call these things jinn. And in um, Ifa, they're called Ajo Gun. And these are negative spirits that create havoc. And a lot of us have jinn and Ajo Gun hanging around us. And I began to see depression, and worry is the other one that is a problematic emotion for me, as entities that attach. Because to a certain degree, once we fall into a place like depression, and for me, depression is sort of like, oh man, it's hard. It's really like a hard place to be in. I have learned to prefer anger over depression, because it's energetically, I'll stay moving. Whereas depression, I'm just sitting around. I can't do anything. It's almost like being despondent about life, you know? Um, and so once we get to these places, and even with anger, if it's a problematic emotion of anger, um, it's like our spiritual immunity gets low, and these entities can come, and they are like in a, in relationship with us. And what ends up happening is we think that we want to be depressed, that we can't get out of this depression, but it's really this energy that's surrounding us, that's in relationship with us, and we in it with them, that is driving us to create situations that make us depressed, to, keep us stuck in this depressed state, the state of worry, the state of anger, or whatever. And so, okay, so that's one thing that I began to accept. Wait a minute, I don't think this is really me. I think this is something else, because I was going way too long without being able to get out of depressions, right? And nothing was going on. That was the other thing that just really bothered me. Nothing is really wrong. Why am I depressed? The other thing that I began to realize, there's a movie called What the Bleep Do We Know? And it helped me to understand that sometimes we have addictions to emotions. And I began to realize I was addicted to depression, probably addicted to worry. But at the time, I identified two: addiction to depression and addiction to um, anger. And so I would watch myself. Being aware is so important. Observing ourselves, that mindfulness piece that I was talking about. Um, I would begin to realize, wait a minute, I created something that made me angry, and I got my anger fixed. Stuff would happen. Maybe I watched something on TV. I would forget about it, but I would start feeling depressed in my spirit. It was like I was conjuring up all this stuff and experiencing, all these this depression and worry. And it was just ridiculous, right? So that was another thing. I think learning about it from the physical perspective, but also from the spiritual perspective. And so if you've not seen What the Bleep Do We Know, I recommend that you watch that movie. It's not just about depression or anything like that, but they talk a lot about how we're attracting to us what we attract. And there's the wedding scene with the emotions. And so something that I learned a long time ago, that is, if you want to make a change, now this, thank you for asking this question. If you want to make a change, you've got to do something different. Okay, this card speaks to that, or this energy that is represented by this card speaks to that. If you want to make a change, then you've got to choose to do something different. And so, there's a physical aspect to depression. So like working on our diet, getting on medication, and exercising. That's very important for depression. Cardiovascular exercise. I will say that's another thing. You've asked such a good question this morning. We should be exercising, moving our bodies, okay? Even if it's just like a 20, 30-minute walk, we all need to get the heart pumping over this next lunar cycle. And so, there's the physical aspect that we really do have to honor. And then there is the piece. There is these other ways of looking at it, as to a certain degree, we're in relationship with depression, understanding that is real. Because for me, I was depressed for so long that it became a comfortable place for me, even though it sucked and I felt horrible. I knew depression. For me to come and be vibrationally some other place, and some of it stemmed from, I had surprise things happen to me as a kid or in my family that were horrible. And so it made me never want to be caught by surprise. It sort of stemmed from all these traumatic surprises that would pop up on me. And there was probably more like a shocking moment. Surprise is sort of like a good word, but it was a surprise and it was traumatic. And so, it was sort of like a protective state, but it was one I needed to start getting rid of because I wasn't living like that anymore. And of course, when we're depressed, we're sitting down on our destiny. And so another way we get into relationship with it is our ego realizes that it disempowers us. The ego disempowers us through problematic emotional states, especially depression. And so we have to realize all these different factors that go into this thing. Another thing is the emotional guidance system by Abraham Hicks. This is real, and on the emotional guidance system, depression is at the bottom. When I saw depression is at the bottom, it's like almost like the worst place we can be emotionally, because we're so not moving, we're not doing anything. And that, you really can't go from, like, if you're here too long, depression, straight up to joy and just expect to stay there. There is this stepping process that we can see ourselves going to. And of course, once I began to realize I could be angry more than depressed, I was like, I'm winning, And so now, it's like, I don't want to be angry too much. Let me continue to step this thing up, right? Then there's the aspect that perhaps you're depressed because something happened and you got to go to therapy. I talked earlier in the video about how Scorpio has put a lot in motion. The Jupiter in Scorpio for the last year, we've had a lot going on in Scorpio for a good while. And so it has put a lot in place. These transits don't last necessarily like a month or a day. The Jupiter transit that Scorpio Jupiter transit, it's going to last for 12 years. And so a lot of stuff has been conjured up and unearthed. And Scorpio speaks to therapy. So, with us being in the Sag season, it may be time to go get therapy, because sometimes things really have happened, But I'm saying all that to say that it took me making a choice to do something different. Now, for me, it was working with my godmother. I chose the path of initiation. I also do my own therapy here at the house. I'm constantly doing something to work to transform myself for the better. Having daily spiritual practices, because it's not about initiation. Some people initiate and they got some stuff there, and that initiation makes it worse. But I'm saying that was my path. Really, what I would call it is I chose the path of spirituality, and spirituality will make you look at your stuff. So do some self-development work. And as your demons arise, that really give you insight as to why you are really and truly depressed. If it's something deep, you will find, the right space to create the healing. The main thing is you do not want to be allowing things that happen to set that emotion in even more. So there is the spiritual, there is the mental, there is the physical, and just kind of going back, because I want to make sure I said this. When depression sets in, you've got to choose to do something different. You've got to say, I'm not going to be depressed right now. And so you might turn on something that distracts your mind. You may be able to develop something that helps you to just literally turn away from it. There's a meditation that I learned from Raul Neframin in the Metanetter, but also this book, this same principle is in Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. And the best way I can describe it, and people kind of like dog me for this, but I'm telling you, I did it. It worked. And I'm going to give you the illustration that I use to explain how this works. You ignore it. It sounds so simple. But it's like somebody knocking at your door and you don't want to answer it. And so you don't. It's like, no, I'm just not going to do that right now. Now, A lot of times with depression, depression is like, oh, you didn't answer the door. Okay, you got distracted for like 5 minutes. I'll be back. And it comes back. And this time it rings the doorbell and it knocks. Like, girl, we always depressed. You're not gonna be depressed with me today. Really? And you just have to develop ways. It's literally an inside game. For me, it was an inside game. You have to develop ways to just be like, I'm just not going to deal with you. So there's a movie that I watched called A Beautiful Mind. And when I watched this movie, it was the first time I saw the MEN, is MEN, and then the second word is AB. MEN, meditation in, in motion, in effect, in play. So the main character, the genius mathematician has schizophrenia. This thing gets so out of control and the medicine isn't helping him. So he promises his wife, I'm going to beat this thing. And I'm not saying this is what folks do with schizophrenia. I'm just saying this movie helped me to see the MEN meditation. And the people that he would see in the schizophrenia, they would run up to him and he would just turn away. He was on a campus, maybe like Harvard or Yale. They would run up to him. It was 3 of them, and he'd just run away. And then they stopped coming as often. And then they would just stand looking at him across the way, and he would just ignore them. He even had a discussion with one of them, was like, I care about you, but this is over. I will not be talking to you anymore, And so that's how I see moving past problematic emotions such as depression. You really, when it comes knocking, you have to say, not right now. I'm not answering that door. And I'm not a medical professional. I don't know what all these medical professionals would say, but I'm going to tell you what worked for me. I had to make a choice to find another way to live. Some people need that medication, but most people need a spiritual healing. So I hope that has helped you. I know I talked a lot, but I hope that has helped you. Okay, y'all. So I'm a homeschooling mom. So my son is downstairs waiting for me, but I did want to get on and chat with you all today. So thank you all so much who have shown up live. It's been so nice having you all. And for those who watch this in replay, thank you. Please like the video, share the video. Remember, I do divination. So as you come up with your New Year's plans, maybe you want to get a reading with me. www.goddessbodymindspirit.com. And I would love to divine on your behalf for 2019. Love you all. Have a good one. And happy Sag season. Peace.